Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Tracy. I'm not afraid of color. Today's video, I'm going to make a floral background for you. How's everyone doing? So here's my prototype, and this is just kind of like a garden trellis background. And I used several products to make this card, and I'm going to make another one for you. A little bit different because all my butterflies are different. I'm going to be using the brand new Floral Borders from Simon Hurley. I love, love, love these, and I can't wait to use more. But for now, I'm just going to use the one. I'll be using some pigment ink. Any kind is good, but it does need to be a pigment ink to be able to cover over. I'll be using Simon Hurley ink in Remember Me, Clear Skies, and No Diving. A white gel pen, and this is a number 10. Some Lunar paste in No Diving, and some word dies that I got from scrapbook.com. And that's going to make the thanks word. And then a little dealy bob. What is those things called? It's a dealy bob. You know what it is. Anyway, let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, in front of me, I've got a piece of white. This is Simon Hurley's Stark White cardstock, and I'm going to put down one of my little grip mats. And I'm going to do some just inking around, and I'm just going straight ink to paper. And the reason I do this, and this is our prep work, so you want to do this in advance so it has time to dry, because I'll be using Lunar paste on it. I like to put ink down first. That makes my Lunar paste spread more. Not easier, but for instance, there wouldn't be any white spots underneath. So I've got my little Simon Hurley scraper and my little palette knife tool. And in hindsight, I probably should have done the outside edges first, but you know, it is what it is. It's me trying to save paper. And I'm just going to use this scraper tool and just scrape myself out an area here. And that's what I'm going to cut my word from. And then I also want a border around my card. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of scrape this off of here, make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to come around. See, I've got a little spot there, and I'm super picky, so you don't have to be so picky, and no one will really even notice it. But I like it nice and smooth, and you'll see in a minute I get my finger in it again, because that's just the nature of who I am. And I got my napkin in it, but the surface, this stuff dries pretty fast, and I don't have it on super thick, and that was the point of putting the ink down first. So that I didn't have to have it super thick and I'd still have the nice rich color. And now what I'm doing is I'm going around the edges. And this is where I said in hindsight I probably should have done the edges first. It is what it is. And you know, if all else fails, grab your finger tool. You just want to work this stuff while it's wet, because once it starts to dry, then you start to get fingerprints in it. But I'm just going to smooth that around. And then I'll go back and fix my little boo-boo in the center there so that it's nice and smooth. Then we'll be setting that aside to dry. See where I got a fingerprint or so in there? No problem. Just cover them up. A little more Lunar paste. A little more spreading. There we go. All nice and neat. I've got an area that I can cut out. So I'll go ahead and clean up this mess and we'll move on to step 2. And we just want to set that aside somewhere safe to dry. All right, now I'm going to grab a piece of Ranger watercolor paper. This is the Tim Holtz watercolor. And I'm just going to do some messy inking on here, nothing big. And I do have this sped up because it's just laying ink down. And then I'm going to get it really wet and just move that water around. So I get kind of a dark cloudy background. Mostly I just wanted it to be blue, and I do love those two colors together. And we'll go ahead and get that dried off. You can set that aside and let it dry and go do something else if you want to, or you can be in a hurry like me and dry it with your tool. I'm going to grab my stamp platform because it's going to be important to have this for placement. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this little delicate floral stamp. I can't wait to use all of these. I think they're fantastic. So I'm looking at the direction, and I see that there is an up and down direction. In the end, it wouldn't probably matter. But I do want them to all go in the same direction. I'm going to lay this stamp down right in the middle and then close my stamp platform. Give it a press, and then I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And again, I recommend pigment ink if you're going to go lighter on the color. I've experimented with browns, blacks, all kinds of colors doing this method. And I really did like the green the best, so that's where I'm going with it, and the lighter green. Besides, that color of green right there matches Overzealous really nicely. So there's that. We're waiting on Simon to make some pigment inks. All right, then I'm just going to take this and overlap it the slightest bit. And what's cool about this is all the flowers are in the center. So all you have on the outer edges are leaves, and it doesn't matter if they overlap. So I'll go ahead and stamp this down a couple times until I get a nice solid stamp. Now this stamp is slightly antique looking, grungy looking. I don't know what word to use here. It's not meant to be crisp, clear, perfect. All right, I'll go ahead and wipe that down, and then I'll do the other side. And it just turns out that this stamp is a perfect third of a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of paper. So bonus. And I will be trimming that down too. And I didn't like my placement on that, so I'm going to pick it up and do it again. You just want to make sure you wipe your stamp off before you move it to the next area, so that if it's not placed in the right place, you don't end up with stamp marks. And I'm going to do that a couple of times until it reaches the same darkness as the other two. And then it ends up looking like it's supposed to be like that. Just one continuous background. So we're done with that. And this is super easy, guys. There's a little bit of a time-consuming part, and I'll show you that in a moment. But it's not hard by any means. It just, I don't know, maybe took me 10 minutes. I don't know, maybe 5 minutes. Who knows? You know how time goes. It might have been an hour and I didn't notice, but I'm going to take my gel pen and I'm going to color in all the little flowers white. And the reason I chose blue for a background for this is because in my mind, these are, I think it's forget-me-nots that have a blue center. I'm not sure, but these flowers are going to have a blue center. So I'm just taking the white gel pen and just dotting it in, very lightly touching my pen to the paper so that the ink flows out. If you press down hard, the ink won't flow and you won't get a nice kind of dimensional look to it. So I'll do this one group of flowers and then I'll do the rest of them off camera for you. See how it changes the look of it entirely though? I really like it. And there's one tiny little bud there. In my mind, it's a bud anyway, so I color that one too. All right, I'll finish this and be right back. All right, so there we are. We've got all our white flowers colored in. Now it's time to do the blue centers. And that's where this, oh, it was on the tip of my tongue, the name of this tool. With Dealy Bob. That's where the Dealy Bob comes in. And I'm going to take my little lunar paste, and I'm just going to put a little bit in the lid here. There is some in the lid already, but it's drier, and I want it nice and wet because I'm going to be picking it up with the, oh gosh, yeah, with this tool. And I do have this sped up, and all I'm doing is just picking up little dots of lunar paste and popping it in the middles of those little flowers. And that part doesn't take long at all, especially if you sped it up. Sorry, I had to. Oh my goodness, I may get the name of this tool at the end of this video. What is this? Oh, I know what it is, you guys. Honestly, I do know what it is. The word is escaping me. Anyway, we'll go ahead and complete all those little blue dots, and once they dry, they'll really pop. And this, again, it's meant to be a background, but honestly, you could just put a word on there and it'd be beautiful. I'm going to go ahead and put this away, and I'm going to set this aside and let it dry. It won't take long. And let's go to work on my words. So I'm going to go ahead, and this feels dry to me, but I'm going to add myself a little insurance here and hit it with my heat tool from the front side and the back side, just to kind of make sure, because I'm going to be running this through my die cut machine, and I don't want to have to do over again because it wasn't dry. So that's why we did that at the very beginning of the video. I love Simon's new fall collection. It's really, really awesome. And I do want to thank Simon and Ranger for inviting me to play with their products this release. I'm always really grateful for that. All right, now that feels dry enough. I'm going to go ahead and grab my thanks word. These word dies were the best investment I ever made. I love, love, love them. And they get tons and tons of use. You know, I think about that when I'm shopping, and, you know, I want to make sure I'm getting a good value. So I'm going to be cutting 1 of the blue, and I'll be cutting 3 of the white. And apparently I forgot to cut this part out of the video, so I'll just keep talking because I'm going to be back. There I am. And so I've got 3 out of the white, and then I'm going to do the shadow layer in vellum. Now this is a little trick that I saw Kathy Zielski do. I'm sure she saw somebody do it, and somebody saw somebody do it, and that's what I love about our crafting world. So then I've got this piece to be my matte layer. So that's handy, but I am going to trim it down as well. So I'll be trimming that down to 4 by 5 1/4. And the floral piece is going to be 5 by 3 3/4. So I've got just a small little shiny blue matte layer. That's why I wasn't worried about that one outside edge, because I knew I was going to be trimming it down. But I do kind of want it even. So, yeah. So 3 3/4 by 5. All right. You can always save those little strips. But boy, if I keep saving everything I say I'm going to save, I'm not going to have a room left to work in. So I want to edge this with the overzealous, which is why I was saying I like the pigment that I use. And I will list everything I use down below, by the way. And I'm just going to edge this with the green. And it's just going to kind of, you know, yeah, well, it's just kind of a vignette. It's going to be added color for one, and it's going to draw your center more to, draw your eye more to the center. Good grief, you guys, I can't speak this morning. It's not even 6 o'clock in the morning. So, again, doing these early before it gets too hot and I have to have my air running. So those two are going to get glued together. I'll go ahead and do that now. And the little things that's been cut out of the middle, no one will ever know. Especially since I'm going to pop this up on the card base, this whole shebang. And that's why I'm doing this before I put anything else on the card, because once you start putting things on card, you can't lay something flat on it for it to dry and get full coverage. So I'm just going to give this a press down because I am gluing it onto Lunar paste, which, you know, is a porous surface, so it's harder for a glue to stick to it quickly versus paper to paper. And I'm giving it a little bend just to make sure it's kind of straight, because they do bow out, especially if you use heat tool on it. And for popping it up, I do like to use these little sticky foam pads that I get on Amazon. They're wannabe fun foam, but they're not the brand name. And I save all the scraps, and I'll put all scraps, but I like it to be, I like full coverage on there. First of all, it's a lot cheaper to do it this way, especially if you want full coverage on your card. I'm just going to go ahead and make a little mark there so I know where to trim this off. And then I'll use the trimmed off portion across the bottom. Anyway, as I was saying, for me, this is the most economical way to cover the entire back of a card base. I'm going to trim this down to, there's not a specific size, just smaller than it is because it's too wide. And then trim down a little bit off the side just to make sure it doesn't poke out anywhere. And then too, there's the added bonus of having different colors. Not that it matters. People, you know, hopefully aren't inspecting your card to see what color your foam tape is, but just in case, we know we are, right? On our own cards. So there I've got good full coverage. Now the only downside to this is you do have to glue the other side down, but it's also an upside because it gives you a minute to move it around before, you know, it sets and you're stuck with a bad placement. So I've just got a side folding card base there, and I'm just making sure that right side is up and that I'm not gluing it on backwards, because that happens. Happens to all of us, every single one of us. On occasion, I do it all the time. Just, you know, in a hurry, not paying attention. Oh gosh, I just thought of the name of that tool again and then it slipped away. Don't you hate it when that happens? All right, let's go back to work on the card. I'm still thinking. So I'm going to glue these 3 white things together. And they're going to go under the vellum. So that's the cool trick about this, to pop up your vellum. What is that? What is that tool called? Hey, if you guys think of it, put it in the comments down below. Say, Tracy, come on. Oh my word. Oh, yep, it was a tip of my tongue again. And I'm not worried about doing a nice, neat job of my glue on these because you're not going to see them. But I do want them all to line up because, you know, I want that support. And, you know, it's still visible if you look through the side. And I don't want a bunch of glue hanging over. And I just use my tweezers to kind of pull letters together while it's still wet. Yep. That's all right. I guess I'm just not, that tool's not going to come to my mouth. It's in my brain. All right. So we get those 3 stuck together. And I probably could have sped through this part too, but I didn't think about it. I mean, who doesn't love to see somebody struggle with glue? I'm just going to make sure it's all stuck, give it a good push, and then I'll go ahead and glue the Lunar paste things down to the vellum. And the reason I use vellum is because I don't want to cover a whole lot of my pretty pattern. I can't wait to show you guys the rest of Simon's stuff. This is the first of probably several videos because, oh my gosh, he made cats. And you guys know how I feel about cats. So super excited to play with those. And I have some great ideas, but just haven't had time to bring them to life. Honestly, since I retired, I'm busier than I ever was when I worked. I think it's a matter of time management or lack thereof. Because, you know, when you work, you know that XYZ has to be done on your days off. But when you don't work, you know that you could take a nap or watch a movie. I don't know. I'll get it. I'll get used to this. I'll get the hang of not working. You know, let's see, I'm 63 years old. I've worked since I was probably 14, off and on my whole life. All right, so we're going to glue that thanks directly down. So see, that's the other cool part, is that if you back it like that, you have a place to glue it down. And I'm just doing the very middle. And the reason for that is because I want to tuck some little butterflies into there, because I feel like this is a garden and it begs for butterflies. So the butterflies that I'm using are some that I foiled some time ago and colored. I've got a lot of butterflies. I think I've shown them to you guys before. because I like them and I enjoyed coloring them. And I especially love these foiled ones. These are Pink Fresh Studio. So I'm going to pick some that go nice in the blue range. And just stick them down and be done. Yeah, blue and green range. There we go. So I'm going to do 3 butterflies, and that's all I'm going to do with this card. Maybe. I start looking, maybe I'll do more, but I can't really find one that actually makes me feel happy. So I give. And then I'm going to go ahead and pop up their little wings a little bit. And there we've got our beautiful little floral background made with a border stamp. And here's this card. Here's the original I made. So they're very, very similar, just different butterflies. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And thanks again for coming and watching. Here again is the Floral Borders from Simon Hurley and Ranger. And be looking for more videos from me, from Simon Hurley. Don't forget to leave me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Take care. Bye-bye.